Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. Lots to discuss this morning. Erling Haaland targeted by Manchester United again, and also a story developing from last night that Paul Pogba has reportedly quit international football. We'll talk about that. We'll also be talking about this midfield energy that Ollie is prioritising at the moment over better players and whether we will continue to see that, as well as a stunning stat about Bruno Fernandes and a massive week for Manchester United and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Is there any concern that this week could be the week that some Manchester United fans sadly want to happen, that this could be Solskjaer's last week in charge? We're talking about that. Obviously, Leipzig and Arsenal are the games to come. But let's start off with Pogba very, very quickly, because it's a very, very quick story. So late last night, I saw that on socials that there was this rumour that Paul Pogba had quit international football. Now, obviously, Paul Pogba is a devout Muslim, and why so early, says Robert McCormack. Yeah, we are a little bit early today, actually, Robert. You're right. And it's nothing to do with the clocks going back. Last week, it would have been 10 o'clock this time. But no, I've got to go and get my hair cut at 10. So I thought I'd just do the show at 9. It's that sinister. But let's talk about Paul Pogba very, very quickly. So yeah, Paul Pogba, Muslim, as we know. Look, very, very serious events in France last week where a teacher was killed. And this is apparently to do with President Macron of France coming out and linking terrorism to Islam. And this is why Paul Pogba will quit, or has quit, French international duty. Obviously, I'm not going to make any massive comments about this. It's not my country, and I'm just not going to make any comments about it because it's clearly going to cause a massive issue. And I can totally see why there may well be an issue there when somebody basically is blaming our whole religion for what is, look at the definition of terrorism. So if Paul Pogba or any Muslim is offended by that, then it would be a very, very big statement to say, I'm not going to play for that country, when the president of that country is making that statement. What I would say is, it's a rumour. It's a rumour on social media, and it's a rumour in some papers. And I think even the Manchester Evening News said it is quite tellingly, there is no official statement from Pogba or French football or anything like that. So it may well be it may well be nothing. It may well be something quite big. But what I would say is that Paul Pogba, from a Manchester United point of view, does it bother us if he doesn't play for France anymore? Well, look, if I'm being totally blunt, well, it probably makes Pogba fitter for Manchester United. But we're talking about Paul Pogba's not going to stop playing for France because he wants to retire to look after his Manchester United career. This would be about his religious beliefs and the way that his country is going. So that would be a sad reason for him to stop. And also, as I've said many times, and as many of us know, Paul Pogba loves playing for France. So I look, let's wait and see. It would be a very, very big statement by Paul Pogba, but you would imagine that it would be a very big statement that a lot of others, French sportsmen and sportswomen would follow. So I think that there would probably end up being some sort of clarity retraction or something like that from the French president, and Pogba would continue to play for France. I think this is probably not going to go anywhere, but it would be big news if it did. But we just have to wait and see. But that was some news from last night. Also, let's talk about Erling Haaland now. I want to come back to Pogba in a minute and his role at Manchester United, because there was a good article yesterday I read by Laurie Whitwell on The Athletic saying that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is prioritising, and we will see more of this energy midfield of McTominay and Fred. I want to talk about that because I think it's a really important issue and how it impacts on Pogba. But let me just talk about Erling Haaland, because The Athletic also talking about this, that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has been very impressed with Cavani in the week that he's been training there, but his long-term priority is still Erling Haaland. Now remember, Erling Haaland was a player that Solskjaer thought he was going to get less than a year ago. Last December, he was sat there smiling in press conferences saying, I know where he's going to go, and he went to Dortmund. And I think Solskjaer felt very let down by that. And again, it was another example of how poorly Manchester United negotiate deals. And again, that was one of the famous three L's that Dortmund have handed us in the last 9 months. Firstly, taking Haaland, then Jude Bellingham, and then keeping Jadon Sancho. It's not been a great experience. But the thing about Erling Haaland is, I think it may well be bordering on an obsession now for Ole, because look, there aren't many great Norwegian strikers. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is in fact one of them. Erling Haaland is going to be another one. So I think maybe Ole, because he trained him at Molde and has a relationship with him and his dad, maybe he feels that affinity, that it's destiny that he will have Erling Haaland, an Norwegian striker, playing at Manchester United with him. I don't feel that it is going to happen, to be honest with you. I think that the most important thing is that Mino Raiola is in control of Erling Haaland. And as we've seen with Mino Raiola, Mino Raiola isn't about a player going to a club and staying at a club for 10 years. Mino Raiola is about moving that player on after 3 years. So even if we got Erling Haaland in a year or two, I still don't think... I think by the time he hits his mid-20s, he's off to Madrid anyway. So I don't think that this is a... I understand why Solskjaer wants him. And look, as a number 9, he's one of the most complete number 9s already in the world. And he's what? Is he 20 yet? I don't even know. So he's a fantastic striker. It's a shame Manchester United didn't get him. He does have a 75 million release clause, which means you're going to get him for about, what, 65 million pounds in English money. So look, I'm sure Man United will be there saying, please come to us. But I just don't think we can do that deal. I don't think we can, and I don't even think it would be a very good deal to do, to go and get a player that really would be using us for 3 years to then go somewhere else. He's going to have a Zlatan career. I think he's going to have... He may well play for 6 or 7 top clubs in Europe, and I think that's the way it's going to go. And is that what United need? And also, will Ole Gunnar Solskjaer actually be our manager in 18 months when Erling Haaland becomes available? Because what people don't realise is that it's widely reported with Erling Haaland that his release clause doesn't kick in until the summer of 2022. I think some people think it's next summer. And yeah, you could put a bidding for Erling Haaland next summer, but you're dealing with Borussia Dortmund, which is what we've just done with Jadon Sancho. And I do not think that Dortmund are going to let Haaland and Sancho go in the same summer. So, and also his release clause doesn't come in next summer. So they would probably say we want 200 million, or you wait till next year and you get him for 65. So maybe you could do it for 100. I don't know. But I mean, Erling Haaland is not someone who's going to come for 18 months, which might fit in with the Cavani rule of, look, Cavani's here for the next 18 months. I can see that, but I still think, look, there's no doubt that Solskjaer wants Haaland. There's no doubt that Haaland is, was and has been Solskjaer's number 1 striker target probably since he came to the club. But whether he can get that done at any point in the next 2 years, I don't know. I think it's very difficult with Mino Raiola and the way that you can almost map Haaland's career going everywhere for 3 years and then moving on. But we will see. He's a fantastic striker. But we have got Cavani at the moment, and I think that hopefully if Cavani can stay fit, it just gives us another dimension, which is really important. Mark, be honest with me, I personally don't think we'll get any of them ever, but who is likely to come from Dortmund? Bellingham, Sancho or Haaland, says Andrew C. The sad thing is we could have had all 3, couldn't we? I don't even like thinking about it, Andrew. I mean, Bellingham should be at the club. I don't understand how you don't get a 16-year-old from Birmingham when you show him round Carrington, how he goes to Dortmund. I just think he's embarrassing. Sancho wanted to come to the club, we just couldn't negotiate it. And Haaland, again, we negotiated badly. I mean, look, I would have liked to got all 3. And the sad thing is we should have got all 3 and we got none. And do I think we'll ever get any of those? I don't know. I mean, look, our relationship with Dortmund isn't great now, and I don't think our relationship with someone like a Jadon Sancho is great now. But we'll see. We'll see. There's no doubt that Ollie wants Haaland. I mean, look, very, very quickly, this is not what this show is all about, but I think if Ole Gunnar Solskjaer had got the players that he wanted in the last 8 months, Erling Haaland, Jude Bellingham, Jadon Sancho and Jack Grealish and a centre-back would be at United right now. How much better would we be? All right, we wouldn't have Cavani, we wouldn't have Van der Beek, but we would have Haaland, Sancho, Bellingham, Grealish and a centre-back, and we wouldn't have Paul Pogba. And some would say, well, we're in a better position. It's an interesting conversation, that, isn't it? But look, that's not what we're here to talk about today. Let's carry on with the latest Manchester United news. Really good news, this one, actually, because I've noticed a lot of people talking about Bruno Fernandes. And by the time Haaland's release clause is due, Oliver Giroud will be prime age for a 1-year deal for Woodward to Kieran Dyer. Yeah, exactly. There'll be some old past it player that we can go for then. Past it, not plastic. And Sancho did not want to join. Fabrizio said himself, Red Devil, go back to bed, mate. Go back to bed. Fabrizio never said that, and I think we all know that Sancho wanted to join Manchester United. Which was said on this show back in March and numerous times. Pogba to Madrid, says Razor. We'll have to wait and see on that. Grealish is better than Pogba, says John Smith. I just wanted to say this. There seems to be, obviously I do the watch-alongs for the United games, and I noticed a lot of people after the game and in the last few minutes of the game were saying how badly Bruno played against Chelsea. I was actually very surprised by this because I think, I don't do what Ricky does. I don't always watch it back, but I did watch that game and I thought Bruno Fernandes was so tidy in possession. Like his control under the press, He never gave the ball away, which sometimes he will take a risk. I just think Bruno couldn't exert his creative talents on the game because there wasn't a lot going on around him. But I thought he had a tidy game in a very, very subdued Manchester United performance. But for anybody who's doubting Bruno Fernandes at the moment, he is currently the second most creative player in the Premier League with key passes and assists. Bruno Fernandes is only second to Kevin De Bruyne at the moment, which is quite interesting because although De Bruyne has played a game less, remember Bruno did come off at half-time against Spurs. But look, I'm happy with that. Are we not happy with Bruno Fernandes? I don't understand where this... Again, I feel that there are certain people out there who just don't want Bruno to succeed because they prefer somebody else. And it's like, I will put this story out there that he's a failure because I want somebody else to do better. I mean, I can't think of many stories in football that are more obviously successful than Bruno Fernandes to Manchester United. He came into the club after that Burnley result and we were 14 points off fourth. He got us to third place. Not individually, but he actually was the catalyst and the fire starters to get us there. This season, again, he's been the catalyst to most of our good performances. Granted, there's not been many, but he has been. And he's the second most creative player in the league behind the best creative player in the league, which is Kevin De Bruyne. So Bruno Fernandes, to me, is absolutely the focal point and most important player in this team. And I know Ricky was saying last night, let's give Bruno a rest and play Van der Beek. Well, look, I don't mind giving Bruno a rest, but Manchester United's success depends on fitting Van der Beek and Pogba and Bruno into the starting lineup as much as possible. Now, it may not always be possible, but you can't put two on the bench. We're Manchester United and we need more creativity. I would personally like to see all three in a team, but you've got to start getting two in a team, and Bruno's got to play. Unless he's tired or injured, Bruno's got to play. And the stats and the facts and the eyes don't lie. We don't create enough opportunities for our strikers. We don't need another striker. We need a centre-back and a Matic replacement, says Gabe. And James is a waste of time. Sorry, Ricky, says Matty Schmidt. Well, look, let's move on to that area as well. I want to talk about Solskjaer in a moment and the week ahead, because obviously Arsenal lost last night. But I think there's a bit of a eye-opener to that game, a bit of a warning on this Monday morning. A warning on Monday morning. But I want to talk about this story in The Athletic in a little bit more depth. They were talking about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer really likes the energy of a McTominay-Fred holding position. And this is probably going to lead to more cameos for Pogba, who doesn't want to play in a deeper role and can't get a more attacking role with people like Bruno doing so well. Now, my instant reaction to this was that, look, this is Manchester United Football Club. We are trying to win titles. We are trying to establish ourselves as one of the best clubs in the country and a team that does well consistently in the Champions League. You are not going to do that with Fred and McTominay taking up two midfield spots. And I will stand by this. I think Fred has got potential to be a first teamer, but I don't think that McTominay has at the expense of a Paul Pogba or a Nemanja Matic or a Donny van der Beek. He's just not that level. It reminds me of what Sir Alex Ferguson used to do when he used to play Cleverley and Anderson. It's all energy, but it's not really that talented. Was Cleverley and Anderson really better than 10 other Premier League midfielders around at that time? Club midfields. And is McTominay and Fred actually any better than a Southampton midfield? It isn't. It isn't. But you've got players on the bench that are. And that's the difference between being a Southampton and being a top four side, is you've got to get your better team players into it. And with all due respect, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is not and never will be Sir Alex Ferguson. Sir Alex Ferguson can probably win a title and has won a title playing Anderson and Cleverley in the midfield. But Manchester United under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer cannot do that. He's got to get more quality into the team. And the reality is, for a long time, a lot of people doubted Jordan Henderson at Liverpool and said he was crap. And maybe he is to you. But the difference between Jordan Henderson and a Scott McTominay in the midfield is them worlds apart, because Jordan Henderson's got a passing range. Jordan Henderson will score more goals. Jordan Henderson is a better footballer. He may not be top echelon Premier League midfielder, but we cannot just go into games playing Duracell Energy Bunnies. We can't just put McTominay and Fred in there because they run around and have got passion on their chest. You know, it's not good enough. You've got to get better players into that team. So I was a little bit concerned when I saw that, you know, Ollie's going to keep with this energetic midfield too, because as I said, I saw the infographic yesterday. McTominay's passing against Chelsea, you could have put any player from the Premier League into that position and he didn't do a better job than anybody. his passing really didn't do anything. There was nothing. There was no evidence that his passing going forward was good, that he did anything other than just pass it side to side. He gave the ball away a lot as well. There's no doubt in his energy, but look, what is it that why is that going to get us in the top 4, putting 2 energetic players in there? I think we're Manchester United. I know we're Manchester United, and I accept that sometimes you put a Phil Neville in the midfield. You know, I remember Phil Neville used to get picked in the midfield quite a lot against Arsenal for his tenacity and energy. But Phil Neville had a passing range. Like, Fred, passing range is a little bit under the microscope. McTominay's is as well. So where is the platform to build? I've said this for so many years as well. I've said it, Duracell FC, says Jackson Quaker. I've said this for so many years, and it's so true. You cannot have a good attack if you do not have a good midfield. And you cannot have a good midfield if you do not have good holding midfielders. Because the holding midfielders take the ball from the back 4. The back 4, it's not the back 4's job to get the ball to Bruno Fernandes. They can do it sometimes, but it's a big pass or it's a big dribble. The ball gets to Bruno and the attacking midfielders through the holding midfielders. And if we've got McTominay and Fred doing that role, no wonder we're not having a lot of attacking play against Chelsea, because they don't do that job. So I'm a little bit worried about it, and it does seem to be coming from the coaching staff that they're a little bit obsessed with this Fred McTominay thing. They did it against Newcastle, they did it against PSG, and they did it against Chelsea. And I'm telling you now, that passing range of those 2 players is not good. And I actually think Southampton's midfielders would do a better job than what United would at the moment, because we're not good enough in... We're good at covering the back 4, and we're good at running around, but we're not good at using the ball. And that's really important. I watched us a lot against Chelsea and a lot against PSG, and I think at times McTominay and Fred, they panic on the ball. They'll pass it backwards. The game against Chelsea, where I think McTominay receives the ball, and there's space with him. He's on the centre circle, and there's space for him to turn and move into the space, and instantly it's a first touch back. Maguire gives it him, and he instantly passes it back to Maguire, and it looks like a stupid pass because there's nobody near him, but he's so robotic in what he's doing with his passing that he's like, I'm going to just give it back. Well, that's not progressive. That's not a Manchester United mentality. Centre defensive midfielder gets the ball from centre back and instantly passes it back to centre back instead of surveying what's coming. And all right, he might be blind to what's going on behind him, but we've all played football, and as a midfielder, before you're even taking the pass from Maguire, you should have an awareness of what's around you. You look at what Carrick would do, or a Rodri would do, or even a Jordan Henderson would do. Before they receive that ball from Maguire, they're having a quick look to see what's on. Some of them are so good that they won't even take a touch. They'll whip it to the left winger straight away. So we need more... we need a CDM. We do need a CDM. We've needed a CDM for a long time. But we definitely need more than McTominay and Fred. And I know Ricky obsesses about it. And look, I'm going to do my Manchester United best 11. In fact, I'll probably put a video up today at some point. But I do not think that we have enough. I don't actually agree we need to play 2 holding midfielders. I don't. I think we're going back to Van Gaal days. And Van Gaal got a lot of stick for this. And you know, basically we had Smalling and Blind as centre back, and we used to play 2 in front of them. Like it'd be Schneiderlin and I can't remember who used to play. Was it Herrera or someone like that? So look, I don't believe we need to do that. I think if you had a good CDM, you wouldn't need 2. But what you definitely need from your CDM is a passing range. And look, we talk about pace, we talk about tenacity. What you got to have is somebody who can pass the ball. And at the moment, that passing range is dreadful. And I think that, in fairness, you know, both players are guilty of this. But I think that people think that McTominay's the next Michael Carrick in his passing range. He's never going to be Michael Carrick. Like, Michael Carrick's passing range from deep was world class. You know, it absolutely amazing. Carrick could hit a 40-yard pass like most people hit a 5-yard pass. Accurate, into the feet, right pace, transition of the game. So you do need somebody like that. We haven't got anybody like that at the moment. And you know, the reality is we talk about back 5s. The trouble with 2 holding midfielders, if it's Fred and McTominay, that's Matic, Van der Beek and Pogba all on the bench. Not good enough. What's happening with Greenwood, says Johnny Wilson? Well, he's back in the fray now, isn't he? He's back involved, which is good. But look, we definitely... And the sad thing to me is we've got Michael Carrick as a coach. Can he not identify that how important it is to have someone with a passing range in that role? I just feel they're trying to put square pegs into round holes. They're trying to turn McTominay and Fred into Carrick and players that can have that passing range. If they've not shown it yet at 23 or 22, Harold's McTominay 22 and Fred's 27, if they've not shown a passing range in their early 20s, I don't think they're going to discover one, to be honest with you. But look, we'll see what happens. Stephen Williams says Pogba's holding up United's midfield. I still think Pogba can play a deeper role. He probably just doesn't want to, but I think he actually is the player who's got the passing range to do it. But there we go. McTominay is 23, says Harris King. Anyway, that's my thoughts on that. But look, I think you can play one of McTominay and Fred, but I don't think playing them together is a good idea. You're just Energy FC. As somebody said, let's get Duracell on the car instead of Chevrolet. They're almost the same player. I know there's a height difference, and I know there's an age difference, and I know there's a nationality difference, but the reality is they're basically the same player. They are energetic players with a limited passing range and who can't play on their own. So they have to play together to shield the midfield. I would never in a million years want McTominay as a CDM on his own, and I'm not sure whether Fred can do it. I think he could, but I don't know whether Ollie trusts him to do it. He seems to trust McTominay to do it more. But there you go. Anyway, look, let's talk about the week ahead. Leicester beating Arsenal last night. We've got Arsenal on Sunday. We've got Leipzig on Wednesday. Both very important games. Is there a chance that if Ole Gunnar Solskjaer loses these games, he's out of a job? No. In a word, no. There isn't. I think he's going to live off that PSG result in the eyes of the board for a bit longer than losing 2 games in a row. I think if he lost against Everton as well as Arsenal and Leipzig, he might be in trouble. I'm not expecting any of these things to happen. I'm just covering an area whereby people are interested in at the moment. There's some people who just seem to think Ollie needs to lose his job. The reality is if we had played our game in hand and we'd won it, we'd be 3 points off the top. He finished 3rd a couple of months ago. We've just beaten PSG in the Champions League. There's absolutely no grounds to sack him in my mind, and there certainly isn't any in the board. I know some of you think there are. So I don't see that happening, and I don't think one result in the Premier League is going to destroy our season, even though actually I think Arsenal Man United next Sunday is huge. I think if you lose that game, the Arteta revolution, the Ollie Renaissance is over. I think that would be a catastrophic loss for either of those two clubs. Which is why, as an early sign, it's probably going to be another board draw, isn't it? Arsenal will come with a back 5, and Manchester United will not be very expansive. I don't want that to happen, but I can almost predict it's going to be a draw with Arsenal and United next Sunday, because they will come with a back 5, and they'll look to hit us on the break, and Ollie won't attack, so we will look to hit them on the break, and we will end up with a very, very tight affair. I think that's what's going to happen. But we need to show more at home. So it's going to be interesting what Ollie does, but I would say straight away you probably will see McTominay and Fred in the midfield. You might see a Mata and Dan James, I don't know, but I certainly think we'll see a similar performance to what we saw against Chelsea, unless he suddenly massively changes this team and starts trying to win games. Which, I don't think he will, because I think he knows if he loses it, a draw's not a bad result. And Arsenal, I think, will approach it in the same way. So it's going to be very interesting, but it's a massive, massive game. And what I would say about Arsenal is, let's not dress it up any other way. It was very, very entertaining to watch Match of the Day last night and see Arsenal lose to Leicester. But let's be honest, Leicester really did do a park the bus in the first half and then hit them on the break. And Arsenal scored a goal that I think should have been a goal. And if they're 1-0 up against the way Leicester were playing, they probably win the game. So let's not pretend Arsenal were terrible, is what I'm trying to say. They could certainly come to Old Trafford and cause us some problems. But of course, we've got Leipzig before that on Wednesday. And that's going to be Upamecano, who could have been a United player. How's Ollie going to approach that? It's a home game. I like the fact that we're playing Leipzig at home on Wednesday ahead of a home game against Arsenal, because I think our home form, we're lacking an identity. I think away from home, we go to PSG, we go to Newcastle, we go to Brighton, wherever, and we have an identity specific for that game. At home, you've got to have a consistent identity, and I think we've lost that. So I think that the Leipzig game is really important, because we might be able to get a bit of an identity and a bit of confidence at Old Trafford ahead of a big game against Arsenal. Carrick replaces Fred and McTominay. That's a whole extra player. Quality at CDM unleashes us, says Brian Kelly. Exactly. And I think that, I think Carrick, a prime Carrick would do the job of that McTominay and Fred. I mean, I think that's a very, very good point. I think a prime Carrick would do the job that McTominay and Fred are doing. One player could do the job that two players are doing at the moment, because all we're doing is shielding our back four with two energy players, when actually one good player could do the job of two, which frees up another attacking midfielder. So yeah, that is exactly what's happening at the moment. We're using two players to do one person's job because we don't have somebody good enough to do that job. Please smash a like on the video if you're watching, by the way, and make sure you subscribe if you're new. But look, you know what? I didn't really get a chance to talk about it on the Sunday night show with Ricky, Kev, and Beth last night. Make sure you watch it if you didn't watch it. Really good hour. You can listen to it, whatever you're doing today. But I did mention it towards the end of the show that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer again mentioned lack of crowd in the grounds. He mentioned it, I think, about a week ago, and said that there was a bit of an excitement, a novelty when we came back after lockdown, but now it's very sterile. And I said, well, to be honest with you, that's not an excuse, because everybody else has got that situation. And Sunday morning football, pub teams, you've got one man and his dog watching you, and I've seen tackles and passion going in. I accept that modern day footballers are not used to not having a crowd there, but they are paid a lot of money. They should still be motivated and able to play to the same standard. So I don't have a sympathy with that. But Ollie did mention it after the Chelsea game and said, it's a shame we've not got a crowd in the ground effectively. I felt that might have been the catalyst to win the game. And again, I don't think it's an excuse, because why do you need a crowd to get up to win a game against Chelsea? Most of that team are millions of pounds a week on that pitch, high-end professional sports people, and you're telling me that they now need a crowd to get a win at Old Trafford? They don't. But I think what it is doing is it's throwing up more out there results, which actually a lot of people are enjoying. A lot of people are enjoying the Premier League this year. Do West Ham come back from 3-0 down in a packed Spurs ground? Probably, because it's Spurs. But we're getting a lot of strange results, and I think there is an impact in relation to fans there. But that's because clubs are coming to these grounds and treating them as neutral grounds, and probably being a little bit more expansive than they would be, because a crowd can be intimidating. So Ollie is onto something there, but he's also not onto something for me, because I do think that a crowd at Old Trafford makes it a harder job for the team that's coming. But that just means we as a team have to be more focused mentally, that teams are going to come to Old Trafford, they're not going to be intimidated, and we therefore need to be on our game more. So I think it's more of a failure on our part than a lack of fans. And to be honest, I don't think clubs, even with a crowd at Old Trafford, and most of us have been at Old Trafford over the last 8 years since Sir Alex Ferguson's retired, I don't think clubs come to Old Trafford scared anyway at the moment. I don't think they have. I've seen many clubs come to Old Trafford with 75,000 people in there and still players off the park. Some of them from the Championship. So, it's not true. We need to be more switched on. There is a massive opportunity this season. I think Spurs, if they beat Burnley tonight, Mourinho will be thinking, low key, I might get in a title race here. There's a massive opportunity there for any club who can find some consistency to do well at the moment. And that's the word again for Manchester United. Solskjaer needs to find consistency in that team as a matter of urgency. We can't go into another game thinking, a draw against Arsenal is a good result. We've got to go into that and win. And he's got to get a consistency in the way he's playing football. Formation and players. He's got to get an identity. And look, if his identity is Mata, James, McTominay and Fred, you'll be gone by Christmas, but do it. But what I don't want to see is changing of formations and changing of personnel, because it's very confusing, it's very uncertain, and I think it will lead to inconsistent results, which is what we have seen for probably the last sort of 3 months. Morning, Mark. Arsenal are trash under Arteta. Ollie deserves the sack if he can't beat Arsenal at home. It's Arsenal at Old Trafford. No excuses on Sunday, says Jordan Such. Yeah, but when was the last time we beat Arsenal at Old Trafford? I think the last two have been a draw, haven't they? Pogba took the right decision to leave France, says Ali Ahmed. Well, I don't know whether it's been confirmed yet, but we will find out probably at some point today. And Dan James is the next Messi, says Dan Simpson. Yes, I know. I remember that. And Haaland's dad played for City, so he'll follow in his footsteps, says Samir. That's not really what it's like, is it? He played for City because nobody else wanted him. It's not It's not like going back to Liverpool or Manchester United, is it? Man City's just a club that pay you money. That's it. There's not really any loyalty to City or love for City for any player, really. They don't have that sort of history, I'm afraid. And Mark, what happened with Pogba, says Ethan. So apparently Pogba might be quitting international football because of the comments of the French president and linking Islam to terrorism. So there may be something. I don't think it will happen. It'd be a very big statement by Pogba to do that, and I think others would follow. But Pogba loves playing for France. But I think if he feels strongly about it, he's got to make that statement. But I think what would happen then is, I would expect there would be some sort of discussions and retraction about that. But look, it's a serious topic, and it'd be very serious for Paul Pogba to retire from French international duty at 27. So we'll see how that goes. But I think it's I think it will be interesting to see what happens with that. Anyway, look, thanks everyone for watching. Quick show this morning. I'm off to get a haircut, so no 10 a.m. show. It's 9 a.m. show. Smash a like on the video, and I've got a cracking video coming up for you this afternoon, so keep an eye out for that. Make sure you're subscribed, bottom right hand corner. And obviously we've got the normal show tonight. Thanks everyone for watching, and I will speak to you in a bit. Have a great day.